Precipitation towers uses stackable cubes such as Legos or counting cubes to observe and compare precipitation levels from several different locations. This activity was developed by NASA's Global Precipitation Measurement Mission and has been used by We Are Water host libraries in their STEM programs. The following webinar clip walks you through how to implement this activity into your own library program.
But I'm now going to talk about an activity that we have on the We Are Water activity collection, which is in the link bank that Beatrice just put in the chat again. This is called Precipitation Towers. So again, this is an activity that can be done no matter where you are, the four corners or globally, and you can customize it to be really specific to where you live. But essentially, participants create 3D graphs using some sort of stackable blocks. You can use Legos, you can use these in this image here are actually, I believe, printed. There's a file where you can 3D print cubes to stack, and I'll show you pictures later of gigantic Legos that I used for mine. But essentially, participants are creating 3D graphs to compare precipitation levels from different locations. It's meant for elementary students and tweens, but I'll tell you, I did this last night with my 2-year-old who's just learning how to count right now, and it was so much fun. So it really can be a multi-generational activity if you have family members coming into your programs. The time to complete, it can be anywhere between 20 to 40 minutes, depending on how in-depth you want to get in comparing the data sets with different places around the country and around the world. So in this activity, the files include precipitation data from across the US that are already kind of put together for you. Here's an example of one from Vail, Colorado. This is included in the activity as is. It also includes precipitation data from around the globe. So you can compare what's happening in your spot in the US with other countries around the world. There's also a data collection sheet and instructions for how to create your own data set. Using a NASA database of information. And I'm also putting together an implementation guide to accompany this with how to collect data from Sphere from the Oregon State University, which in my opinion is a lot more user-friendly. So we're putting that together with a step-by-step guide for creating your own specific data set based on your zip code. And then it also comes with a 3D printer file to create bases for the precipitation towers. If you have a makerspace with a 3D printer and you have kids that are really excited about using that, you can make this basically as simple or as complex as you would like. There's a lot of wiggle room here to cater this to what you want to do with your audience. So this is what I did with my son last night. I took the precipitation data from San Francisco because he is, like I said, he just turned 2. He loves these blocks. These are bigger blocks. I don't want him choking on little tiny Legos. So we have these giant Lego blocks that's just in my house. So I was able to pull those out. And he can count up to 5 really well right now. After that, it gets a little more tricky. So we chose the San Francisco data collection set, and you can see these are, the numbers are the average monthly precipitation converted to inches every single month, and they're rounded to whole numbers. So for your younger kids, if you're doing counting or some type of STEM project with little kids and you want to work on their counting, pull out the blocks, pull out these data collection sets, and you can make some really fun 3-dimensional graphs. And what I think is really great about this, especially if you want to get deeper into what's happening with weather patterns, you can see, there are 4 whole months in San Francisco that got 0 inches, of precipitation. So there's this chunk taken out of it. So I think having these 3-dimensional graphs that kids can really put their hands on and see helps them understand, what is happening, why it gets so dry in some times of the year and not in others. And we went ahead and we compared it to Washington, D.C. We're going there in a couple of weeks to visit some family. So I said, you know what, let's compare, what we're going to see out in Washington, D.C. let's see what the precipitation is out there. So you can see it's a lot more steady. There is rain and precipitation throughout the whole year. And, in June and September, they get some of the most precipitation versus if you look on the West Coast, that's when the West Coast gets the least amount of precipitation. So, I can start having these conversations with my son, who's only 2, about, looking at the landscape where we are out in the West, what might we see that's different when we go to Washington, D.C.? Maybe we can make some predictions. Maybe there's more plants, maybe there's more rivers, maybe there's more lakes, and things like that. So it's a fun way to start to talk about the landscape and how things are different throughout our country. And then again, throughout the world, if you would like to expand this out, like beyond your own place. So these are just 2 side by side. Then my son and I got to really look at them, talk about the differences, and, work on our counting skills. So while this activity, it is, meant for older kids, you can adapt this for your younger guys if you're doing pre-K programs in your libraries. But it's a lot of fun. It's really simple. And it's a way to really start using data and start to make some observations, make some predictions, and start getting that scientific process going with the families at your library.
The activity guide linked in the video description includes several variations to accommodate various ages and ability levels. Make this activity specific to your location by using the directions on the last page of the Precipitation Towers Across the United States PDF to collect local precipitation data. The link to this PDF is available in the video description. Check out more hands-on STEM activities at clearinghouse.starnetlibraries.org.